Good morning, friends. It's Gina. Welcome to the Rebookery channel. I am going to list 4 journals in my Etsy shop on Tuesday, June. Oh, I always sit down and I don't know the date. Hang on. All right, let's try this again. Tuesday, June 26th, and let's go 7 p.m. in the evening, Central Time, Kansas City, Missouri, USA. So I have 4. 2 of them are my little fabric storybooks, and 2 of them will be my fabric inside out journals. I have plans to make more. I still have quite a few that are in progress. I just didn't want to wait until I had a whole bunch because then it just takes so long for me to package them and ship them, and I'd rather do this in small little increments. Then that gives me more time to create. So I'm hoping to get some more done later this week and maybe post a few more in my shop this weekend. I'd like to get it's, you know, a couple more times in the shop before July 4th is what I'm thinking. Okay, so let me show you what I have here. So this is the little fabric storybooks. And if you remember, I'm using a Telltale book. It's the smaller one. And it's got a front and the back. And it is put together in a fabric, like a tri-fold fabric journal. This is the Montgomery Ward drapery from 1970s. So the inside is a drapery, and then on the outside is just a coordinated fabric that I either got at a thrift store or an estate sale. This actually came from my quilter that I got my beautiful quilt from this spring, Sweet Helen, and so this was from some of her quilting stash. So there are 5 signatures in this. It is got a wraparound vintage sheet, and it is chock full of all kinds of eclectic and fun pages. So there's a pocket on the inside, pocket in the center, and then a fabric pocket over on the right hand side. And I've stuffed all the pockets full of all kinds of journaling ephemera and things like that. So in this journal, there is wallpaper, there is cardstock, and I've kind of done something a little different. I've done like a little fold up so you have a little bit of extra journaling space, some stationery paper, some scrapbook paper, sorry, let me get this out of the way, storybook paper, tablet paper, then the original book pages. This one is one of my favorites because I was a Sesame Street kid, so How to Be a Grouch, and then scrapbook paper again. And so each signature follows the same you know, the same recipe type thing here. I made some of the signatures with the wallpaper have pockets, and I put little journaling cards in, cardstock, stationery, scrapbook paper, book paper, ledger paper, book paper, some of Aunt Vincie's napkins, some little teeny tiny golden book pages that I've sewn into some of the papers. I'm really using up a lot of my golden books, especially ones that are torn up and I just can't salvage and use, you know, for journals. Like the pages just aren't gonna hold up. So I've been using those book pages in these journals just to kind of tuck in the pockets so that you have some journaling ephemera. I love using book pages when I'm journaling. If you watched my video yesterday where I journaled in my This Is Me journal, I used a golden book. It was the house that my grandpa built. Oh, there's a pocket I didn't fill. I'll have to do that. Here, I'll do it right now. And I used the book pages as like my illustrations, and I love the book text. I love trying to find text in a book and seeing if I can make a connection to whatever it is I'm journaling about. And so it's always like a little treasure hunt when I do that. See if I can make the book text work in my journaling spread, and I was able to do that yesterday, so that was kind of cool. And so I like to include a lot of book pages as ephemera in these pockets. Okay, so this one is Little Red Riding Hood. And for the back cover, Little Red Riding Hood, the actual original back cover was just kind of plain. It was white. So I just flipped it over, and then you'll get the end page, which I thought was really very cute. So again, same setup, pocket, 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 and then the exact same formula, book pages, only this time it'll be book pages from Little Red Riding Hood. Stationery, scrapbook paper, again, another pocket that I didn't fill. Ooh, thermothelma, I like that. Cardstock, stationery, ledger paper, storybook papers. I think the other storybook I pulled from was Henny Penny. And it was a larger paper, so it actually goes horizontally. So yeah, you can see the illustration goes horizontally, which is nice. I always like that. It just kind of adds a little interest in the background. Here's where I took some wallpaper border and I just stitched them together. Notebook paper, look at that groovy fabric. That was actually on a blanket that I got at a thrift store a couple of weeks ago, and I pulled the backing off of it just so I could have that fabric. The backing was kind of gross and it just wasn't very pretty, and it had seen better days, and so I just pulled the backing off of it and saved all of the pretty fabric that went on the other side, and it was groovy fabric, really pretty. And then here's this one. Lots of room in these guys. These are roomy journals, so you can add a lot to them. They're what I call squishy journals. So those are the two little fabric storybook ones. And then I have two inside out journals. So for the inside out journals, again, this is an old quilt that I found, a cutter quilt, and let me get it in frame here. I've used the quilt as the actual journal cover. Just put some trim, some fun little needlework, and then used a vintage sheet as the sash. You'll see lots of messy stitches in this, lots of me going through and repairing the quilt with some, patchwork, and it's just a really fun, haphazard journal. And the inside out part is because I put the book cover on the inside front pocket and the inside center. And then I made these guys, make sure I'm in frame, I made these guys a pocket. So for this one, again, I used a lot of eclectic papers. Oh, and then you'll have a fabric pocket over here, and I've stuffed stuff in all the pockets. So for this one, you will have the same kind of eclectic papers. So wallpapers, the storybook pages from the actual book. So this one is one of my favorites, the Ginghams, the Backward Picnic. Some old computer paper. And I say old, this was probably like 1990s, but I feel like this was from a dot matrix printer. And if you know what a dot matrix printer is, awesome. You remember those days. This is a cool little piece of stationery that has some embroidery or some cross stitch on it, and I love that. Wallpaper, pockets. I just made some envelopes and tucked those in. I had a lot of fun filling the pages of my Inside Out journals. This is just a greeting card, and I cut out some little squares here, but left the design. I ripped up a reproduction Dick and Jane book. So this is not an original Dick and Jane book, but I just kind of, you know, tore it apart. It was old, and then I just added some decorative stitching. There's lots of book pages in here that are not particularly this book. They're from just a collection of my old little golden books, and so I've just put different pages in here for you to use. Some little cards. Lots of randomness in these journals. Ledger paper. Oh, I found some quilt, some books on quilt patterns, and so the papers are nice and thick, and they've just got these cool little black and white designs, so I added some of those. Pockets. This was this card right here, because I don't like to let anything go to waste. So here was the card, and this was the insert, and so I just ripped it apart and then stitched it, and then it actually becomes a little pocket. So I just put that in there. Just some wallpaper. This is a bag that has a little tag that I just kind of decorated, and it just slips back in. More Dick and Jane pages. Some fun little playing cards. This also came from a greeting card. Okay, so this was fun. This was a cross-stitch Ziggy. So if you know who Ziggy is, rock on. Cross-stitch Ziggy patterns, and then I just took some tulle and stitched it on here to make like a little pocket, put a little tally card, and then slipped a book page in. So it's just kind of fun. More wallpaper. I am loving using this wallpaper. I just love it. And I talked about in my video, I like to use the newer wallpaper for my pages because they have that vinyl coating really makes them strong, makes them sturdy. So I like using them as my pages. And then I like using my older wallpaper, like this stuff. I like using this as ephemera because these papers are more brittle. They don't necessarily have that thick vinyl. And so these are better for tearing apart and gluing and backing photos and stuff just because they don't have the integrity that these newer wallpapers have. So more book pages, lots of fabric and vintage sheets. Here was a greeting card, and I just kind of stitched it in here so there's a little opening, and I stitched down the center. You could slide something in. You could washi tape this and make it a pocket. This is a decal. So this is just a fun little card. I think I made this, I don't know. I wasn't much into greeting cards, but I did make a few. So this is one, it's kind of a cat themed, and I made it out of, this is an old greeting card. And then I just have book pages and some wrapping paper. I don't know, kind of cute. I like that one. Fold out an envelope with just some decorative paper. Here's an envelope that I made out of wrapping paper and some scraps. Book pages, ledger paper. This is let's see, it's a golden book craft book. It was like a kid's craft book, and it was published by the Golden Book Company. And so I just made a pocket, and then I stuck a recipe card in that little pocket. Fold out. I love security envelopes. Oh, I love them, especially when they fold out. That just gives you so much more room to do your journaling. This is some of my baby clothes. I just made a little pocket out of it. And yep, and then in the pockets, I have some more book pages. And this quilt, oh my gosh, it is so soft. I just love touching these inside out journals. So there is the Gingham's Inside Out journal. And then my last book that I'm gonna put in my Etsy shop is another Inside Out journal. And this one, oh, I love this one. I'm so excited. Okay, so here's the cover on this, the spine, vintage sheet, little needlework there. This is, I'm a Sesame Street kid, so I love Sesame Street. So this is a Sesame Street book, Bert's Hall of Great Inventions. And this actually might have been my brother's. I've got a couple of copies of this one, but I think this one might actually have been my brother's. I can't remember if it was or not, but yeah. And you know, in my previous videos, I've talked about how he likes to color and how he used to color or write in the books. So I tried to make sure that none of the pages had his writing on them, but there might have been a few that slipped in. Okay, so book pages in here, the same thing. I'm using wallpaper, pockets, book pages, ledger paper, the dot matrix printer paper. This is that same little bag with the tag. I made these guys exactly the same. And then I tried to put in everything the same. So this is just an envelope that I deconstructed and then reconstructed. The quilt paper. More of that Henny Penny book. Dick and Jane, some more greeting cards. This is that book, Golden Picture Book of School Days and Easy to Read Stories and Things to Do. So same thing, I just tucked in a little recipe card into this pocket. I'm loving this new design. I know some of you guys are still wanting some home bodies, and I do have some home bodies that I'm still working on. I just needed something fresh, something new, something that I hadn't seen before. You know, you just kind of sometimes need to open up and try something new. And that's, I was kind of feeling a little stodgy this last spring with journals and stuff, and I was just wanting something new, something different. And so these new fabric slash book journals just were the perfect recipe to get my creativity fired up again. And so I am loving this. I'm loving the contrast between the stark, you know, hard paper and the soft quilted squishiness of the fabric. And that's just, it's marrying my love of two things that I am just so passionate about, fabrics and papers. And so I am just loving making these journals, and I'm loving working in them. My This Is Me book, or the fabric book that I made out of my baby clothes. There's just something about every time I pick that up and I go to journal in it, it just makes me smile. Just because it just feels so right in my hands. Okay, so that one is the Sesame Street one. So in my Etsy shop tomorrow, the 26th, Tuesday the 26th at 7 p.m., I will have the Inside Out Sesame Street book. I will have the Inside Out Gingham's book. I will have the Little Fabric Storybook Little Red Riding Hood, and I will have the Little Fabric Storybook How to Be a Grouch, and that will be at 7 p.m. Central Time, Kansas City, Missouri, USA. Guys, have a great rest of the day. I hope you all are creative today, and I hope you're healthy and you're happy, and thanks for joining me. Bye.